Murnane-O'Connor. Thank you. Taoiseach, first of all, I do welcome the good work that has been done through housing, and I do think there has been, a lot of houses built, and I do believe that we have a lot more to do. And I know with the local authorities and the Derelict Sites Act and everything, that a lot has been done. But I think now we're getting to a different phase. And I'll tell you, Taoiseach, I'm now having people that have been taken off, applicants that have been taken off, removed from the housing list and not being made aware of it. So letters stating applicants, they're closing them, they're posting them to old addresses, and then the applicants themselves don't get it. So I'm now in a situation where I have people that could be on a housing list 4 years, and because of maybe every year or two now they're only doing the review, they could be taken off it, and they're losing their time on the list. And Taoiseach, it's becoming a real issue for me. Common sense needs to prevail here. And I could have the proof that they were on it, and yet I can't. And other speakers have said, I have people that are bordering just qualifying to go on the local authority housing list, and there's no leniency, there's no bit of help there for them, and they really need to be put on it. The other thing now that is absolutely going to become, I really feel, a serious issue. So with the forms now, there's a medical form which is called the HMD1 form. So that has to be filled out if you have if your child has a medical condition or you have. Now it's getting to the stage where doctors don't have the time to fill them in. Said it's not part of what they do anymore. They don't have the time. If a doctor does do it, they could be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks. Taoiseach, these are issues, everyday issues that are coming to local authorities, and they're just not being addressed. I would ask you, common sense in local authorities needs to work. And I do say the staff are doing their best. I'm not taking that from them, but there's a lot of things here need to be looked at. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Leska and Corla. There's a lot of issues there. I mean, let me just say at the outset, in direct answer really to Deputy Durkin's question and a number of other people really asking what are we doing and what can we do. We are building housing again at a level that we haven't seen in a very, very long period of time. And I know to people today looking for a roof over their head, I know for people today wondering can they move out of the box room, I know for people today worried about insecure tenure, I know that can't come fast enough. But there are real encouraging signs now. We have built almost the same number of houses, seen commenced construction in the first 5 months of this year than in all of last year. We are going to set new housing targets that are going to raise the bar. When I talked about only a couple of months ago about needing to build 250,000 more homes between 2025 and 2030, many people scoffed at it. I think people are beginning to see that that is now absolutely achievable and necessary. And indeed, the Housing Commission says we even need to do more than that. And I think we're seeing a system that now is going to be able to deliver that. We will be setting out new housing targets later this year. We will be showing in granular detail, as I said in my original answer, the composition, the mix of that in terms of social, affordable and private housing as well. And in the meantime, we will continue to invest in emergency accommodation and emergency solutions for the likes of your constituents that you reference as well. In relation to the rough sleeper count, I'm looking forward to meeting some homeless organisations myself directly on this shortly, because I do want to see what we can do to make more progress on the issue of rough sleeping. I think Deputy O'Callaghan is right that we shouldn't in any way, shape or form, not that we do, accept that this just becomes a kind of norm or an acceptable part of our housing system. We're better than that as a country. I can tell you some of the things we're doing around trying to provide more emergency accommodation, increasing the homeless funds as well for our local authorities. But clearly there is a need to do more, but also maybe to understand more as to some of the practical measures that we can take, and I'm very much open to doing that. I think the point Deputy Murnane-O'Connor made in relation to local authority lists, this is something that comes up in my constituency office from time to time as well. I do think we need to look at an entire overhaul of how people actually apply for social housing. If you live in a certain part of my county, you might be on the border of the other county, and yet you're on the list for one county and not the other. If you miss your application form, you're then having a row to try and get yourself put back in the 2 or 3 years that you've lost being added back. Now I know there's some work underway in relation to this, but I will seek an urgent update for the Deputy and for others maybe in relation to where that's at to Deputy Boyd Barrett and others. The issue around thresholds, which you do raise regularly. I mean, I do make the point we raised the thresholds for social housing recently. You make the point back it wasn't enough. We are going to consider what more can be done in this space. There are definitely anomalies in the system where people fall between stools in terms of not qualifying for one thing or just going a little bit over the other. And I'm in engagement with the Minister for Housing in relation to that too. Look, on the issue of on the issue of house prices. I mean, we've seen a number of reports out in the last couple of days. We saw about the DAFT report. We also saw the CSO's Residential Property Price Index, which is probably seen as the authoritative source of data. Last week, that did find that prices are 9.6% above their highest level at the peak of the property boom in April 2007. And Dublin residential property prices are 1.8% lower than the 2007 peak. But there is one thing that doesn't often get talked about when you come to house prices, which is income levels as well. And since 2007, average weekly earnings have increased by over 30% compared to an increase in house prices of over 10%. That's not me suggesting in any way, shape or form that housing or housing affordability is where it needs to be, but we do need to just take a look in the round when we're quoting data. Research by the central bank shows that the price to income ratio was 5.5 in 2006, it was 4.7 in 2018, and it's now 4.6. So this shows while house prices are still far too high for far too many, that the level of fluctuation perhaps isn't as often presented with raw data as well. In terms of Deputy Violin Wynne, around that issue of oversight and emergency accommodation and issues specifically in relation to Clare, County Clare, I'll bring those queries directly to the Minister for Housing and ask that he might raise them with the local authority and perhaps come back to you in your office as well. Thank you.